is the Kev Baker Show.
Welcome to today's show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Kev Baker, and that's right, this is today's very special broadcast of the Kev Baker Show. And I say it's very special for selfish reasons, because today I turned 42 years old. So a big, huge happy birthday to me. And tonight I've lined up a really stellar lineup to help me celebrate this date. And of course, a big shout out to my mum, because obviously 42 years ago just now, I'm sure she remembers what she was doing. And every birthday, you know, ever since that pesky kind of health scare I had, every birthday is a bonus. And I was telling my son the other day, you know, he was saying I sounded quite boring when I was young. But I always used to just point out to people that, you know, don't get too excited about a birthday, because in all honesty, all it is just another completed orbit around the sun. A 365-day journey on this flying rock in this spacesuit that we call a body, all to experience this 3D reality. And when you have some kind of, I wouldn't say near-death experience, but something that calls your mortality into question, you really just have to appreciate that everything, absolutely everything, it's all just a ride.
And when you choose to go on it, you think it's real. And we kill those people. This has to be real. But we always kill those good guys. But it doesn't matter, because the eyes of fear, once you put bigger love, all of us as one, to a better human being excluded.
So with that said, folks, tonight, just remember and just enjoy all of this, because it's just a ride. And that really takes me to tonight's special guest. And it's a selfish special guest, because it's my guilty pleasure, because in recent months I've been really blown away by somebody who contacted me telling me he was the author of a book and would have liked to do a show with him. And ever since I first got him onto the show, you know, there's some people you cross paths with on this journey that we're all on right now. And from time to time, you get one of these really exciting experiences where you cross paths with somebody that quite literally you feel like you've known all of your life. You just think alike, you're on the same frequency, and you've got the same kind of twisted, warped sense of humour, the way you look at things. And that's why tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by Charlie Robinson. I can't wait for this. And for new listeners out there, Charlie Robinson is the author of a book called The Octopus of Global Control, a controversial and humorous book that takes quotes from over 500 witnesses to some of history's greatest events and then uses them to piece together and expose a century-long plan for world domination. He had a front row seat to the fraud and corruption in the mortgage industry during his career in Las Vegas real estate. And he credits John Perkins' book, which is called Confessions of an Economic Hitman, as the final piece of the puzzle that helped him to really see how the American government operates as the law enforcement arm for multinational companies. Now, you can get the book over on Amazon. There's also a Facebook group by the same name, The Octopus of Global Control. And Charlie, thank you for agreeing to join me tonight on my birthday. Like I say, guilty pleasure here because I genuinely enjoy hanging out with you, enjoy your company, and we love to try and give our points of view, might be right, might be wrong, about all this craziness in the world, man. So welcome back.
Thank you for having me back, and happy birthday. Yeah, when you said you wanted to have me on for your birthday, I was, of course, especially delighted. So we'll have a good time tonight. We'll get crazy. We'll get into some weird topics.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, we're not going to stop there with just Charlie. Oh, no. Because also joining us from Colorado is the man himself. Jimmy Jeans is here with us, fresh from another Freaky Friday, raring to go for another week on KBS. How you doing, Jimmy?
Man, I could not be better. Hey, Kev, I just wanted to say, today is your birthday. Happy birthday to you. All right, man.
That's better than the song you sent me on Skype earlier. And I can't even play that for the listeners because the FCC would probably kick us off the airwaves, man. But I hope you're looking forward to tonight. With Johnny Whistle's here. He'll be here for hour number 2. So we're going to get down, we're going to get crazy, and we're going to go over some really cool stuff. And I wanted to kick things off tonight, gents, by I thought I'd take a little look, a little nosy. We've got Google. We've got the internet at our fingertips now. I often call it like the digital library of Alexandria. So I thought to myself, July 16th, it must be an important date. Surely, aside from me being born in 1976, surely some other significant things have happened on July 16th. Oh, what a rabbit hole this set me down. And it almost serves as evidence that, I definitely am following some kind of dharma right now. There's synchronicities in here that I certainly picked up on. And let's just take a look at it, right? And we'll get into more of that. But the first significant one I found was back in the year 622. This is actually when the Islamic faith was formed on July the 16th, 622. Now we keep scrolling down and we move forward significantly to the year of 1439. I found this one quite strange, but the kissing was banned in England, and this was to stop the Black Death from spreading. So we come further down again, and there's some really interesting characters in here, like Mozart. He was releasing some of his most famous works on this date, way back in the year 1782, In the year 1790, on my birthday, July 16th, Congress declares the city of Washington in the District of Columbia the permanent capital of the United States. I think that's quite a significant one. I found that quite interesting. Then we keep scrolling down, and it says here, Russia launched an offensive against the Chinese in Manchuria. I like to bring up Russia, folks. And in 1920, on this date, we have got China joins the League of Nations. Further down, 1925, the first parliament in Iraq is opened by King Faisal in Baghdad. 1936, the first X-ray photo of arterial circulation, Rochester, New York. Then in 1945, on July the 16th, getting closer now to my kind of time period, the first detonation of an atomic bomb at the Trinity site, New Mexico, as part of the U.S. Manhattan Project. Imagine that, folks. My birthday just happens to be the same date as the first test detonation at the Trinity site. I find that quite interesting. Now we go forward a year to 1946, and here it was the U.S. court-martial sentences 46 members of the SS to death. Now, I find that interesting because obviously these 46 people weren't of an intelligence high enough to be part of Project Paperclip, right? Because we know that all the brainy scientists, and we talk about Werner von Braun on this show a lot, he was certainly part of Project Paperclip. He was certainly a Nazi as well, but he certainly wasn't sentenced to death. And we all know that he went on to create, what was the Apollo rockets. Now, this one here, I talk about mind control a lot on the show, and this one jumped out, guys. I'll get your thoughts on this one, Charlie, because on July the 16th, 1951, a novel by the name of Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger was first published by Little Brown and Company. And that jumped out at me today, Charlie, because obviously you look into mind control and certain assassins over the timeline of the past 100 years. This book, Catcher in the Rye, it really does come up time and time again.
Yeah, with John Hinckley, obviously, he was wasn't he the one that was reading it like crazy, or was that the?
Yeah, he was one of them. Yeah.
I don't know that it's the book necessarily that is weird. I read the book. I thought it was all right. I don't know. I didn't really think of it as a classic, but
trigger you into doing some kind of heinous act, Charlie. No,
probably, but I don't. I'm not going to discuss it. But it's funny though. Yeah, the MK Ultra mind control program. When you first hear about that, is easy to roll your eyes at and just go, give me a break. That's straight out of, a James Bond movie. It sounds a bit fake until you really start to dig deep and you realize it is 100% real. They figured it out. And then you'll see the people that were sort of trying to get that message out in a creative sort of way, like with A Clockwork Orange. I mean, they're showing you right there how that was trauma-based mind control programming. And so yeah, it's as real as it gets, but it's sort of hidden because of how preposterous it sounds just on the surface.
And they admit to the old MK Ultra some of the programs that were going on, and that kind of makes me wonder, what is it that's going on today that we'll need to wait 50 years to find out about? And obviously, 50 years from now, I'll be having a really good innings if I'm still here. But my point is that there's going to be mind control, MK Ultra 2.0, 3.0, for every time period that we live in. And the technology of the time, we know that will be utilized to control the minds of people. It's really crazy, crazy stuff. But we keep kind of scrolling down here, and then we find that in 1969, something myself and Charlie discussed the last time he was on the show, is the Apollo moon landings. And we got into a whole heap of stuff about whether they did or whether they didn't. But on July the 16th, that is when Apollo the 11 launched. And it was carrying, allegedly, the first men to the moon. In 1970, we had the 9th Commonwealth Games here in Scotland. I found that quite a significant one. And then in 1973, during the Watergate hearings, Butterfield revealed the existence of secret tapes. And then coming really close to present day now, after my birth, 1979, July 16th, Saddam Hussein, remember that guy? He was made leader of Iraq. And Charlie, Saddam Hussein, at one time, he was a buddy, he was a darling of this octopus, shall we call it, of global control, because he was regarded as one of the okay kind of leaders in the Middle East. It's rumored that he even asked the West, or he instructed the West of his intentions to invade Kuwait. We gave him the okay, and we can see how history played out after that, right? And my point is, none of these leaders, look at Gaddafi as well, and Kim Jong-un. I hope you're listening to this right now, buddy, because the minute you give up your guns, and your weapons, and the minute they start smiling at you, inviting you round for dinner, oh man, your jacket's on a shaky hook. You've got a target on your back, Charlie.
Be very careful, or else they'll kill one of your lookalikes.
Exactly. Do you remember the lookalikes that were kicking around the time of Bin Laden up in the Tora Bora? And you had the big kind of podgy CNN guy. Yeah, I think that was the worst kind of looky-likey I ever seen.
They held a Osama bin Laden lookalike contest, and they probably got like 3 people to enter, and they're like, "Well, you'll do. Come here, come with us. We got a job for you."
Do you think that's who SEAL Team 6 took out when they went into Afghanistan? Well, it was Pakistan, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's speculation on my part, but the reaction of SEAL Team 6 all mysteriously getting killed not too long afterwards makes me think that I don't know if what they saw was a double or what, but they saw something that they probably weren't supposed to see, or somebody didn't want them to talk about. And whether that was a double or something, or there was nobody there, or whether he died in a United Arab Emirates hospital in 2001 in December from, kidney failure. I don't know for sure, but the reaction to them was extremely suspicious. And there's a dad out there. There's a guy, and I can't remember his name, but he's the father of one of the SEAL Team 6 guys, and he's like a good guy. He's a good New Jersey guy, and he gets in front of the cameras all the time, and he wants answers. And this guy is not taking no for an answer. And whenever I see those interviews, I feel really bad for him because it's eating him up. He lost his only son, and he's just distraught over it. But he knows, and he can feel he's not getting the right answers. And it's sad.
And this all kind of ties in with the compartmentalization of these programs, because SEAL Team 6, other special forces, I'm ex-military. I was never near the caliber of these people. And I genuinely do believe they are good people. And by all accounts, Charlie and Jimmy as well, there was eyewitness reports to an actual raid taking place. So I think they genuinely went in there. They were genuinely thinking perhaps they were after bin Laden. And like you say, it obviously became quite obvious that who they had shot, what was going on. Not bin Laden in any way, shape or form. And then we had a very convenient helicopter being shot down that just happened to have the full SEAL Team 6 on it in the months after that in Afghanistan. Come on, there's something far wrong with that, Jimmy, isn't there?
Yeah, come on. It sounds like an episode of some new TV show on Netflix or something. Or, come on. What's the difference between what we were told about what happened and all these? I'm just throwing salt in the game. I'm not saying I think this, but I'm just saying, let's just put it on the table because it is food for thought, isn't it? What if this is exactly what we see in, say, America, where they run drills, but then the drill gets out into the public eye, but no one ever steps forward to say it was a drill? Because number one, for you to kill a Muslim man and then take him out in the sea without giving his family the rights or the proper devotion to the gods that they serve, and just dump them off into the water, I don't think that's acceptable. Number one.
Jimmy,
number two,
and Jimmy, even before you go to number two, compare that to how the media were quite willing to show Gaddafi's final moments. In fact, they were more than happy to show that, just to show people that, this is what's happening to Gaddafi. So you would think there would be more of a kind of an event around the fact they had shot him, they're going to ID him. But no, like you say, he's gone about 12 hours later into I think it was the Indian Ocean. He's shark bait now.
Right. That's disrespectful. There's certain certain rituals that have to be performed when someone dies. The reason a lot of, people don't realize that, the turban that it's wrapped around the head, that is the cloth that they're supposed to use to bury you in if you die. And so there's a lot of ritualistic things that need to happen with the death of a Muslim person. So number one, if this is a true story, then there should have to be video documentation of the ceremony. Otherwise, there would be issues with the family. So I haven't heard of any issues with any families. Secondly, the story about SEAL Team 6, let's say they really did kill bin Laden and SEAL Team 6 really does exist. If SEAL Team 6 exists and you know the name of it, then it's a non-functioning, piece of equipment. And anybody associated with SEAL Team 6 is a story being told to get rid of the operators. The operators need to seem as though they're gone, I guess. And that includes the father in New Jersey. He could be a crisis actor. I don't know. And I'm just throwing this out there. These are questions I have about the story.
I'll tell you something. The only thing we do know is that whatever we were told by that lying prostitute perception architects that call themselves the press. All of that is pure theatre. All of it programming. I know that much. Now, I've got another couple of dates here, right? In 1981, India, they performed their first nuclear test on July the 16th. What is it about nuclear tests on July the 16th? Because in 1987, Great Britain, they were also performing nuclear tests at the Nevada test site on July the 16th. Now, I know that these creepy, elite weirdos that run the planet, they love their dates. And I'm wondering just what it is about nuclear tests on July the 16th. Just saying, folks. 1990, Ukraine declares independence. And I highlighted that because obviously we're lucky enough to bring Alex from Ukraine onto the show here to give us one of the very few boots on the ground reports on what's really going on in that country, because the media certainly don't cover what's going on there anymore, despite the fact that all of the turmoil and the war that's ongoing was caused in no small part by the European Union. Oh, go figure. That'll be why they don't cover that story anymore then. So there, guys, in 2011, one last one. NASA's Dawn space probe enters the orbit around the protoplanet Vesta. And again, Charlie, NASA, they love their dates, very Masonic usually. And that was a kind of rundown of some of the things that I found had happened throughout time on my birthday. And most of the ones I highlighted, I say there's a synchronicity because, you know, they're kind of to do with all the topics that I talk about today. How weird.
Well, I have to give you a sort of funny story about my one connection to Buzz Aldrin. It's a very distant connection, but when I was 20 years old, I was living in Newport Beach, California, and I was working as a valet parker at a restaurant not too far away in Laguna Beach, and I see this car pull in, and the license plate says Moon Guy. And out steps Buzz Aldrin and his wife. And I valet parked his car. I said, "Hey, I like your license plate." And he goes, "Yeah, my wife's license plate says Mars Gal is on her." So I got to valet park his car. That's the. Of course, at that point in my life, I didn't have the opportunity. I wasn't thinking to ask him, "Hey, by the way, tell us about the moon." But he.
Dude, it's lucky you didn't, man.
He would punch me out.
Yeah, he's a live wire, dude. If he was a younger guy, I would expect him to be in the MMA or something because he loves to fight.
Yeah, he would have knocked me out too.
I still don't think they were on the moon. And of course, he was one of the ones that went down to the South Pole as well. And he got medevaced out of there. Goodness knows what old Buzz seen. But that South Pole, that's another freaky place going on that we don't know enough about.
I'd like to check it out. Yeah, when you have the list of the cast of characters that have been down there over the last 2 years, it's a strange group of people. They all have one thing in common. Pretty much none of them are to be trusted for anything they say, between Buzz Aldrin and John Kerry and
Rubbery Face. I mean, what was Big Rubbery Face doing? He was leaving like the candidacy. I think it was the time of the presidential debates were on. And he goes down to the South Pole. I mean, come on. What's going on? I would love to know more about what's going on down there.
Maybe he was having another facelift.
It could be. Maybe that's where they keep the body doubles, because he looks like some kind of synthetic life form on the best of times.
No kidding. Yeah, do you remember that when he was giving speeches a couple years before that, and his lips were so dry he kept licking them, and I just kept thinking he's going to shapeshift, he's going to turn into a lizard right on camera. It's going to be the greatest moment in U.S. history. Didn't happen, but he looked like he was about to either about to have a heart attack or about to join the Queen.
I think one of the most classic clips that kind of makes me think of has to be Creepy Bill Clinton. When he's sitting there and he honestly looks like he's in some kind of MK Ultra trance. He wouldn't look out of place standing beside Lady Gaga, put it that way. He's out the game, they're putting makeup on him. And I swear, if that isn't somebody that's in a hypnotized state, maybe he'd just finished reading Catcher in the Rye and he'd been triggered or something like that. Either that, Jimmy, or he'd just been, a fresh delivery into Arkansas. We know the kind of stuff he was flying in there back in the day, right?
Oh, yeah. I saw that same one. As a matter of fact, I actually have that on my hard drive, that video, because that really struck me. Just because, you know, when you're an actor, you got to be on when it's time to be on. And when it's not time to be on, that's your time. And it's clear you can see him. He's just sitting there like with this blank stare on his face, man.
Well, there we go. There's the music, Jimmy. And we're going to be back on the other side, and we're going to get into more of the good stuff with Charlie Robinson, author of The Octopus of Global Control. Jimmy James will be back. I'll be back, and so will you. Don't go anywhere. Tune in to tfrlive.com. Share this around all of your anti-social media.
This is the Kev Baker Show.
It's my birthday today, and I will woo if I want to. Yeah, I went there. I had to do that for the promo over on Facebook today. And I want to thank each and every one of you out there for inviting myself and tonight's guests into your home, into your rooms, into your cars, wherever you're listening to this show right now. It's almost like we're having some kind of digital global birthday party right here. I've got Anne making some digital cake. That many people tuning in tonight, it might be a really, really quantum-sized piece of cake that I'm giving out to people. But again, thanks for tuning in. And my guilty pleasure for tonight was to go and hurriedly book one of the favourite kind of guests I've come across in recent times. Just love the way this guy thinks. He loves to put a kind of a humorous slant on things, which is so important in these days, in these times we live in. And that's Charlie Robinson, author of the book called The Octopus of Global Control. He's got a Facebook group by the same name. Always interesting posts on there, and usually coincide with some of the stuff that I talk about on the show. We're on the same frequency. He's here tonight. Charlie, welcome back, man. And after your last visit to the show, you incurred the wrath of the keyboard warriors. And that's because you spoke about Trump. What happened, man? Come on, talk to us.
There are some people out there that do not appreciate my sense of humor when it comes to making fun of the President of the United States. And look, it's going to happen. I can't help myself. I can't. To be fair, though, my assessment of Donald Trump actually has very little to do with his political platform and his decision making here. He's got a personality trait that I don't like in people. The guy who, I'm the greatest, I'm the best. I know everything. What did he say a couple of days ago? I'm a genius. I'm the biggest genius that's ever had. I mean, guys like that, people like that just rub me the wrong way. So it's less about his politics and more about his personality. And it's nothing new. I haven't liked the guy for a long, long time. So now he's the president. But, considering that it's like the United States election process has turned into a circus, it's quite fitting that we have the ringleader of the circus in charge now. And as much as I bag on Donald Trump, I will freely admit that I would rather have him than Hillary Clinton. That I am assured of. And speaking of what we were just talking about a couple minutes ago, that footage of Bill Clinton being in a trance. If people want to write this down or check this out after the show airs, there's a video. It's called Media Lies, parentheses, 1995 spin, in parentheses. And it is the uncut satellite feed that some guy got and compiled from I want to say 1992 to 1994, a couple hundred hours, and then he cut it all up. And what it is it's the, nowadays you think about satellites, it's like DirecTV here in the States. The feed just comes in. But back then, you'd have a really large satellite and it would kind of sit either on your roof or maybe even off to the side of your house. And it would just pull in two different feeds. One was like the television feed and one was just the uncut feed. So what you would get would be, you'd get the conversation the guys were having once they thought they were off the air, as long as they were mic'd up and in between commercials, kind of like the three of us were doing in between this commercial. So you'll have video of Larry King talking to George H.W. Bush, in between the commercials, talking about the medications that they're on. It's crazy. In this video, it's just a little under an hour. I suggest people watch it, and you'll know you're there because the front picture of it is that blanked out face of Bill Clinton where he's getting his makeup done, and he is in a trance. There is no doubt about it.
Off the hook.
Totally
off
crazy.
The hook video, Charlie.
Yeah, so watch anyone that wants to know. I mean, there's a lot of magic that goes on behind the scenes in Hollywood or in the media for sure. So that part isn't surprising, but just to kind of hear the candid nature of it all,
Charlie, just to reassure the audience that when we go to the break on this show, I'm still just Kev Baker. I'm not sitting here talking about pizza parties or eating flies with my lizard-like tongue or anything like that. Just what you see is what you get, right?
It's as if the show didn't go to a commercial. Yes, we're still talking. We're still rambling on and on and on. And then it's like, oh, wait, we have to do a show? Okay.
Sometimes I almost forget. And Jimmy, you always think I forget, but I've got the timing down to a fine art. It's obviously because Beethoven was releasing songs on this date way back in the day, man. I've got it just timed, Jimmy.
I know. You know what? Seriously though, the events that happen on the same day as your birth throughout history are super powerful, man. That's why you're such a
Imagine the whole inception and the origination of the Islamic faith kicking off on my birthday.
I know. That's why you're the quantum mechanic, man. That is exactly why.
That's why I'm one of these few voices in Europe that don't think every single person following Islam wants to cut my head off. I know that's a controversial kind of stance to take on the whole thing, but no, I don't think they're all after me.
That's what happens when you stop watching TV. We just want to, we want to warn the audience. Listen, audience, we just want to let you know if you do stop watching TV and start listening to the Kev Baker Show, all of a sudden you're gonna snap out of it, like in that movie They Live, when they all wake up.
That's exactly what it's like. And, I did dip my toe back into the mainstream media the other day, and I'll come back to you now, Charlie, because obviously Donald Trump, a very polarizing character throughout or around the globe, should I say, not just in your country. And I often tell people and remind people, I sit on the fence. I don't trust any of them. And Donald Trump, some things I like about him. I love the way he ruffles people's feathers. I definitely love that about him. But I still think they're all in the same club. Now, he came over here to the UK, and I was quite embarrassed in the build-up to his arrival because such a childish kind of protest. And I'm not against people protesting Donald Trump if they knew what they were protesting. And if they didn't, petition to fly a big blimp of a giant baby Trump at the time. Now, it all fell flat in its face. It wasn't all the big kind of event that they wanted, but I was watching the programming and the people over on this side of the pond, Charlie, and this has been obviously a global mind control program because the people who were out protesting, and again, I'm not kind of rubbishing their free speech, anything like that, because I like to protest things I'm against. However, when the media were asking people why it was they were protesting Trump and things like that, they just didn't have any valid points. And they were scrambling to repeat things that they had heard on a media that absolutely hates the guy. So here was all of these people, and they'd basically been triggered into going out onto the streets. And I was questioning, where are these people when something real's happening in this country? But the protests, it was very eye-opening how not only people in the US, how the media is able to mind control them. I was surprised at how many people have really gone for that with Trump over here as well.
Well, a couple, over the last 2 years here in the States, with regard to Donald Trump and people, being up in arms about things, our NFL teams were having this issue where players were taking a knee during the national anthem. And then Trump came out and said, I would fire those guys. You get up off your ass, get up off those knees and blah, 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 and this and that. And so when Trump makes his trip to the UK a couple days ago, it's on TV, I get a phone call from my mom. She says, "Are you watching this?" And I was like, "Yeah." She said, so he's walking out with the Queen. He's kind of walking in front of her. He doesn't know the protocol and everything. And then the Star Spangled Banner starts. My mom goes, "How great would it be if the Queen took a knee?"
The Queen taking the knee with her hips. She wouldn't even have got back up again. I would love to see the Queen taking a knee. Oh, that is brilliant, Charlie. And what I was laughing at, people who don't like Donald Trump, they were losing their minds over the fact that, like you say, he wasn't following royal protocol. And, I think royal protocols, royal families should be thrown out the window in this day and age. But, I mean, these people before Trump came over here, I would hazard a guess, were quite outspoken about how much they hate the royal family as well. But, you know, when Donald Trump comes to town, no, it's okay, we'll respect the royal family for 10 minutes if it gives us an excuse to kick Donald Trump when he's in the country.
Those are the things I like about Donald Trump. The very few things. I like that he called CNN fake news, because they are. I like that he told Hillary Clinton you'd be in prison because he was speaking, you know, sort of off the cuff. I like when he, you know, kind of craps on tradition like that, because it's a tradition that is sort of like more symbolic. And it has, frankly, it's a tradition of oppression over the years of all the people around the world that have been colonized by the Queen's
why
services.
Should your president, I mean, Obama, he nearly broke his back and could hardly get back up. He bent out that far in front of the Queen. And on July the 4th every year, you rightly celebrate your independence from that crown. So why is it your presidents should bow down to that family anyway?
They shouldn't. I mean, I watched the video of Justin Trudeau paying, you know, doing his little speech to the Queen, and it's embarrassing, frankly. It's just, you know, if this was a tradition, if this was an establishment or an organization that over the years had been known for doing really good things around the world, that'd be a different story. But I think that the history of the British monarchy is all about oppression, control, murder, territories, all the horrible things.
I find it ironic, Charlie, because we were the ones that were originally setting up colonies, and let's call them what they were. They were prison colonies, basically, around the world. And now here we are, as ironic as it may seem, we're now a colony, a captured nation by the EU. And even when the people in Britain say, hell no, we don't want to be one of these colonies, our government still finds ways of not delivering us the Brexit that we want to talk about. And just before Jimmy comes in and unloads both barrels on Donald Trump here, and GCHQ, get a life, it's a figure of speech, both barrels. I don't mean he's wanting to shoot the guy, literally. Gosh, get a grip. And GCHQ, they always listen to my show, Charlie. I've got to keep them up to date with what I'm talking about. But I tell you something interesting happened today. And I've been looking forward to this moment, and it was when Donald Trump came face-to-face with Vladimir Putin, and it sent Twitter into meltdown. The internet, I think, almost came to a kind of grinding standstill, because everyone was talking about what I have to say was a very affectionate and man-lovish wink by Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin. I think Donald better watch out just how cozy he wants to get with Vlad, because with his kind of martial arts background, you know, I would take Vlad in a fight or some kind of man love, some man wrestling later on in the Kremlin over Trump any day. Try not to laugh now, Charlie.
Well, you can't spell Trump without P.
Well, this is true. You know, maybe that whole dossier was wrong. Maybe it was actually Donald and the P was for Putin.
That's true. It could be. I like Putin. I think he's hilarious. I mean, he cracks me up. You know, the shirt, the pictures of him riding a horse with no shirt, and you know, I'd like to see Donald Trump try that.
He's a real leader. You know,
he's a real man. He's a real killer.
If Russia went to war, he'd be the first over the border. He'd be on his horse. He'd be bareback. You know it. And I'm like you. Out of all of them, if I had to sit and have a pint or a joint or some mushrooms with any of them, it would definitely be Vladimir Putin. And I want to say congratulations to him and Russia for hosting such a brilliant World Cup. You know, not even a Novichok nonsensical event in the UK could detract from the fact that you put on one hell of a spectacle. And Charlie, I know you enjoy the soccer, as you guys say over there as well, right?
I do. I am in the minority in America that is a fan of your football, my soccer. I love it. Played it in college. Enjoy it a great deal. I will say though that I think I can speak for everyone in my country that we're a bit done with this whole flop stuff though. I mean, if you're going to go down like you've blown your knee out, you better have been shot or something. But
what is that all about, man?
It's nonsense. It's got to end. When Neymar
plays, they really need to stop letting snipers into the stadium, because I swear somebody's shooting him every 10 minutes. But no, you're right. I still can't figure out why you guys call American football when the majority of the time it's a quarterback handling it, throwing it to people. And you should really just change the name. It's so confusing, Charlie.
For the same reason why we're not on the metric system, because we like to make everything difficult. We like to piss off everyone. We think we're in a different sort of, we're held to a different standard. We'll use feet and yard, and you guys can use the metric system, and everyone will just have to compensate and calculate for our arrogance. So
I like it. Just you keep that being different. It keeps things interesting. But Jimmy, I've been keeping you stewing nicely in the background because your temperature, much like the heat wave around the Northern Hemisphere right now, is rising, man. We're talking about Donald Trump there. You're a big fan of Trump, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I am a big fan of a businessman that knows how to, knows the art of a deal. I mean, Donald Trump's got some really good qualities. And so far, I mean, he's followed through on a lot of what he says he's going to do. And that's for sure. But I wanted to circle back around because you said something earlier about the protests going on there and against Trump. And you made a reference to the word triggered. Okay. So what I want you and the audience to be aware of is I think a lot of the people that get triggered, triggered is the new word for paycheck from George Soros. So when somebody says I got triggered, or if somebody gets triggered with some sign or whatever and they're protesting something, you can bet they got a paycheck from George Soros.
Honestly, dude, this is what I was telling Joe and Scott as well. No, honestly, that's how bad it is over here. People were willingly leaving their homes with the most stupid signs in the world to go and protest this guy. Now, there was some Antifa protests that came into clashes with Tommy Robinson protesters. Now, there, I think we could look for Soros money. But I would love to put it all down to these being paid protesters, Jimmy. That would make my country look slightly better because that would raise the IQ level a little. But no, unfortunately, a lot of these people, just like people who have been programmed, and, I call them the weaponized left supporters.
Right.
US, and that's what's happening here as well, dude. And you don't have to pay these people. All you have to do is have a lying prostitute media that tells them where they can go and protest. They tell them this protest is on since the minute Donald Trump's coming to the country. Never tell you when any of the protests against the government are on. But yeah, go figure. Like I say, triggered to come out into the streets. And listen, if you're against Trump, that's one thing. But I think people can agree with me. Some of the scenes that we did see, some of the people that were interviewed on camera, they literally didn't even know why they were there, dude.
I know. Let's circle back around, too, because you guys were talking about the Independence Day and, independence from England and why are these guys bowing and that. Well, the reason is because, see, I was doing research about the ritualistic practices of the priests of the Temple of Ceres. And these were the priests of the pyramid in Egypt. And they had to go through a particular initiation process. And the reason this is important is because, as we all know, George Washington was offered the crown and he said no because he was such a patriot. Well, turns out one of the intense initiation processes that you go through, besides crawling through dark tunnels in the dark filled with alligators and everything else, you get to the other side of the moat and there's a good looking queen there. And she says, listen, I'll help you kill my husband and then you can be king. If you say yes, they kill you. If you say no, you're allowed to proceed. And in that function, when he refused to be king, he was not doing something for the patriotic Republic of America. What he was doing was outwardly performing a Masonic ritual. The war was never won by the United States of America. The war was just put on hold because neither country wanted to fight a war any longer. That's why we're taxed. That's why we pay to the Queen. That's why there's a monument in the city of London, just like in Washington, D.C. So, yeah, the history of the United States really isn't like the way they show it in the books, especially if you do any kind of investigating.
Eddie, Jimmy, you see, you just come out with these little golden nuggets like that, and you're so right. And that takes us to the Freemasons, and that's one of these not so secret organizations that make up one part of this octopus of global control. And I'm sure in your book, Charlie, you've probably got a lot of quotes by the founding fathers and things like this. But what Jimmy was talking about there, he's bang on, isn't he? Because we still see the Bar Association, that's the British kind of input into your legal system. And, okay, on the face of it, you won your independence, but another commonly misheld conception is that old Queenie, lizard breath herself, just ceremonial, just comes out to inspect the soldiers now and again, but nothing could be further from the truth. She's one of the most powerful, evil, so-called women on this planet, dude.
And I think she retains like 1/6 of the land on the planet too. Is that correct? Some crazy number.
A very, very played down estimate. Absolutely, yeah. You're correct. I mean, most of the land here, you pay land taxes to her, all of the tax, and you got Her Majesty's government. She is one powerful old lady. I say lady as in a lady lizard. But George Washington, people like that, Jimmy's right. And these Freemasons, I imagine, make up a very big part. Not a big part, but one of the organizations you must have covered, looking at the octopus of global control, right?
For sure, yeah. Their involvement is well known. But I think like a lot of these organizations, it's probably filled with a whole lot of really nice people that have no evil intent. They're the feeder mechanism. They're the ones that pay the dues and fund the operation. And they're, part of this group because they want to network in their community and get to know other people. And hey, you scratch my back, you send someone to my business, I'll send someone to you. So there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of, nothing necessarily wrong with it. However, as you get up into the higher levels, not just in the Freemasons, but really in all these secret societies, they're secret for a reason. They don't want you to know what they're doing and what they're up to for a very good reason. I mean, you look at Skull and Bones. Remember that question that on Meet the Press, he asked George Bush and John Kerry about Skull and Bones. Tim Russert asked him 332, huh? And he just goes, it's so secret I can't talk about it. And Tim Russert was dead a week later. So there's if people say, well, that's coincidental. It might be coincidental, but when you start to bring these topics up in a place that is inappropriate to speak about them, as far as they're concerned, there'll be pushback. I mean, these groups are. Skull and Bones is a real thing. It's been at Yale for a whole long time, over 100 years. It is a legit organization that is up to some very nefarious things. And you go back and look at the people that have been involved in high-ranking positions in the United States government, and a disproportionate number of them have ties to Skull and Bones. And that's not even really necessarily a debatable point. I mean, that's a fact. So
we're here in the UK. We've got something at Oxford they call the Bullingdon Club, and you get people like David Cameron, Boris Johnson, old bumbling Boris. All of these people have been members of these Bullingdon Club or the Bullingdon Boys as well. So it just shows you how on your side of the pond it's all this kind of brotherhood. They all come from even a university fraternity, and it's exactly the same over here. And these leaders, they're literally bred and reared for power. I honestly think their whole lives are basically put on a course that shapes them and molds them to be the clowns that we see in power today. You can look back at old pictures where you see Angela Merkel, Theresa Mayhem, and I think it's either the Swedish or one of the Scandinavian countries anyway, one of their high politicians as well. And they were all maybe 14 or 15 years old at a summer camp over in Europe. And you telling me it's a coincidence that those three so-called women go on to lead countries in Europe? There's something really, really weird going on here, Jimmy. And we cover it on the show all the time, but You know, this is all, again, part of the tentacles of this octopus of global control. Jimmy doesn't, he's missed his mute button. He does this to me. Charlie, there he is.
Yeah, I know I'm here. Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, the thing that really sets the elite's children apart just from everybody else's children, and you're right, is the training that they get. And part of the training that every single elite family's children gets taught is the trivium. And what the trivium does is it teaches people a way of understanding things and sussing out the truth. And that puts them on a whole different path. So what our listeners can do is go on YouTube if you have kids, find out about the trivium. And there's a bunch of really cool programs out there that you could teach your kids the trivium and put them on an equal playing field. You know, we don't have access to a lot of the colleges and stuff that we used to have access to in the past, not have access to in the past. But now, you know, via the internet, we can learn anything we want to learn. So if you can learn the trivium and then use that to propel you forward with whatever you want to study, Kev, you could become a Kev Baker. You could become a quantum mechanic.
Want to become a Kev Baker. You've become like the Yoda of KBS tonight. You're just kind of throwing out these little nuggets and this kind of information here about where you can open your mind, learn better.
Hey, it's your Charlie, birthday.
I invite him on to have a laugh, you know, think we'll keep it cool, keep it everything. And he's channeling some ancient yogi or something up there in Colorado, ain't he, Jimmy?
Yeah, man, it's your birthday, brother. I'm giving you my gift of myself. And,
the gift of knowledge. We'll be back.
I'm telling you,
great ladies.
I love you so much, Kev. And I would be here any day, even if I had to drag myself through the desert with my top of my arm.
This is the Kev Baker Show.
Hour number 2 of episode 950 of the Kev Baker Show, right here on the #1 network, www.tfrlive.com. Tell everyone you know about Truth Frequency Radio. We cover absolutely every topic you can think of. You'll agree with some of the stuff. You'll disagree with other stuff. You'll love some of the hosts. You'll hate some of the hosts. But together, we come together as one unique, happy, digital family. And in this day and age where things are getting so crazy, you know, we need people with good minds around us to try and make sense of and to have a laugh about everything that's going on. And tonight I'm joined by the author of The Octopus of Global Control, Charlie Robinson. Check out the book over at Amazon. He's also got a Facebook group by the same name. We've got Jimmy Jeans as well. And with it being my birthday show, I am pleased to tell all of you Johnny Whistle fans out there, the cult of Johnny, he's here. He's live. Johnny, I keep my fingers crossed every night because it's almost like your PC is possessed, right?
Oh, yeah, it does, Kev. It needing an exorcism. As I was saying before the show, I've got to get Bill Bean to actually bless it before it goes on. It is a hell of a thing. But I'm here tonight, Kev, anyway, so looking forward to it. But a great guest we've got tonight as well. Some of his stuff is fantastic.
You know why I kind of booked him for tonight, John? Because we like to have a laugh. Scottish people, we've got a dark sense of humour. And when I first got Charlie onto the show, it became evident really early on that similarly, he's got an equally twisted and brilliant sense of humour as well. So it's my birthday, my rules. I'll woo if I want to. And tonight it's Charlie Robinson. He's here with us. And you'll like this, John, because now we're about to get into space. And last time you were on, Charlie, we were geeking out. We're both kind of space fans. We're both kind of avid questioners of all things that come from NASA. And just during the break there, you were talking about Mars. Now, anytime somebody mentions Mars to me in recent times, I think of one of my idols, Mr. Elon Musk, and the fact that he very soon will be starting a colony up there on Mars. But what have you found about Mars? What do you want to say about this tonight, man?
Well, when you hear Elon Musk speak about Mars or anything, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, probably because he does. He's a very smart guy. He's got big plans. And he has a way of taking difficult subjects and breaking them down and explaining them in a way that makes sense to common people sort of like us. We're interested in it. It makes sense. However, NASA put in charge of their Mars Curiosity mission a guy named Adam Steltzner. Have you heard of him before?
I haven't heard of this character. Tell me more.
So I was so enraged at the press conference he had that I devoted 3 pages in my book just to this guy, because I have never been more insulted to have this guy present to us, the public, to me, the information surrounding the Mars program that he is in charge of. I'm going to just read a couple of the back and forth between the reporters in the audience and Adam Steltzner. Now, keep in mind, they had just landed the Mars Curiosity rover on Mars, a big success. They had a huge press conference at JPL in Pasadena to talk about this. Okay. So the first reporter says to us, by the way, the Curiosity mission, the whole point of it, photograph Mars like crazy. The first question was, can you tell us about the image file type and compression that was used to send this very important couple of thumbnails back to Mars? His response, yes, unfortunately, I cannot. I absolutely cannot. Then there's laughter from the audience. If Justin Mackey is in the room, he points to the audience, or there are a couple of other people on the team who would be able to whip that out quickly, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Sorry. Next question. Adam, tell us about the landing. He says, all right, Greg, I can't tell you much about it. I mean, it looks good. I'm being a little flip. In short, it looked extremely clean. We touched down in conditions that were more on the benign side of our nominal expectation. So now people in the audience are like, okay, these are kind of nothing answers, right? So they ask him again, and he said, they ask him more questions. He said, well, if my good friend Miguel San Martin, who is out there somewhere, pointing in the audience, I hope, they asked him another question. He says, our powered flight appears to have been excellent. If my good friend Ben Toma is in the house, again, pointing to the audience, is Ben in the house? So they keep going on and on and on. He can't give any answers to anything. This guy named Leo Enright says, Leo Enright from RTE, Irish Television, the coordinates for the landing that go down something like 5 decimal points. I wanted to confirm with you that you have these sorts of coordinates. His response is, I can't confirm that. My estimates, I'm looking for somebody. There's somebody here in the audience that has on the tip of their noggin. We should get that estimate. This guy knows nothing. He knows nothing about Mars. So my feeling on this was that Adam Steltzner would probably be good, he used the word good like 8 different times, if he was on the television show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, as long as he could phone a friend or ask the audience.
It sounded there almost like a comedy skit from the Onion News. It sounds like they're almost poking fun at the ineptness of NASA, but that's actually NASA. And this makes me think back to an image that they released, and it was back in 2008, and this was after the NASA's Phoenix lander had hit Mars. And one of the images that they released to the public, you're waiting for all these glorious pictures of the red planet to come in, guys, and what it shows you is a detailed picture of the lander's foot in the actual Martian dust, or it could be absolutely any other dust pit anywhere in the cosmos. Not exactly proof of being on Mars, but this is what we come to expect from NASA.
I want to believe these guys, but they make it so hard to. They just really don't seem to have. Why not have a dress rehearsal before you run this guy out there and have him talk to the press where he can't answer any questions at all? When they do release photos, people are finding like gophers, like animals in the photo. If you've seen that one Mars picture that they sort of like have it circled, they're like, what is this? It looks like a gopher or a rat or something.
And there's another one where you've got the guy cleaning the actual rover off. There's a shadow of somebody cleaning it. Well, the problem is there's a shadow of a person there. And one of the more ridiculous ones I've seen, and I do believe that, I'm not one that thinks that we're living in a dome. I think the planets are out there. I don't think it. I know it. Don't ask me to prove it, though. We're not here for that conversation tonight. But I find it really hard to back that claim up when I seen one image from allegedly the surface of Mars, but there was what appeared to be seagulls in the shot. So something is definitely off somewhere with these images that we get. And Jimmy, I'll let you chip in on this. And then Johnny, I'll let you unload on NASA, because I know you love NASA as well, right? Jimmy, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, I think it's absolutely fantastic that you put that into a book. So, it sticks around for a while, because books tend to do that because they're printed. You can't erase them on the internet, with a keystroke. But I don't know, man. The whole thing seems suspect to me from day one, because here, number one, they got carbon fiber. They got something called Bucky paper. They got self-replicating robots. So why would you need to send 100 human beings to Mars to do something? Why couldn't you just send a ship there with robots that don't have to, have life support? Land them on the thing, build your dome or whatever, get all situations normal, and then fly in.
Musk, dude. It's going to be robots that go up at first to build the first settlement.
I know. I was just working on his facility in the Bay Area last year, his robotic assembly plant. And yeah, man, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's possible to do it that way, but I mean, as far as human beings existing outside the magnetic field of the Earth and the Schumann resonance, that's a serious problem. I mean, we've seen scientific representations of some wheel going around in space that's supposed to represent gravity or whatever, but that doesn't account for the magnetic field. It doesn't account for the Schumann resonance. And they understood all of this in Egypt, man. For some reason, everything always goes back to Egypt, doesn't it, Kev?
It doesn't. Before we get there, I'm going to bring Johnny in on NASA. But we could almost make a case, and we will in a moment, for us humans having come from Mars. But before we get there, guys, Johnny whistles, NASA, never a straight answer. I know you're a big fanboy of everyone's favourite space agency, right? Not.
Oh. Yeah, Kev, every time they bring out one of these massive press conferences, which turn out to be absolutely nothing, do you know what I mean? We're being played by NASA. That's the thing about it. I wonder if NASA was ever intended for the public. I don't think it was ever intended for the public. I think everything is so secret about that place, especially Mars. When you look at Mars and you see some of the anomalies that they think are actually quite a natural formation, do you know what I mean? It beggars belief. And why they don't tell us, I really honestly don't know. To me, Mars looks like the way Egypt would be if it hadn't been uncovered from under the sand. I think there's millions of things to find under that red dust that would be amazing. Do you know what I mean? Amazing for our imagination, but we won't get to see it.
Johnny, we've had guests on the show that have been to Mars, dude. We've rode shotgun with people who have been on Mars, allegedly. And we have had a couple of whistleblowers that claim to have been on Mars on the show. But Johnny brings up some good points there, Charlie. And it kind of links us to the next topic we're going to, because like I said to Jimmy there, we were talking during one of the breaks, and Jimmy was quite rightly saying that in his opinion, he thinks that humans might not be able to survive off this planet. We've got Schumann resonance, we've got magnetic fields, and it's just not conducive to our spacesuits, our biological spacesuits out there. Yet when you look at Mars, arguably, you've got at Cydonia, a site that's got an alleged pyramid, an alleged face on there. And when you look into the actual name of Cairo itself, the Egyptian capital where the Giza pyramids are, the Arabic for that is Al-Qariya. Now, Al-Qariya, literally translated, means base of Mars. So for some reason, when they were naming the Egyptian capital, they just happened to name it after a base on Mars. Just saying, we see pyramids up there. I know we both love space, stuff like that. I mean, what do you think went on in the ancient world? Speculating, of course, Charlie, because like Johnny says, it does look like there might have been something up there at one point.
Well, I have had the pleasure of going to the pyramids. In 1989, I was able to go. And I was also able to meet Egyptian people in Egypt and realize that they are not all terrorists. They're not all out to kill Americans. They were some of the nicest people around. So as we were talking earlier about that myth that sort of spread about how the Arabs or the Muslims are out to get us, that's nonsense. Like, they were an amazing group of people, a culture that is just, I mean, I think we're just scratching the surface as to what was really going on there. I had I don't know how it's set up now, but I was able to go in the pyramid. You know, you can go up these steep stairs, almost like a ladder that goes at a pretty unnatural angle, pretty steep. But you can go up all the way into I think the Queen's chamber, maybe it was the King's chamber. But there's nothing to see in there. It's just an empty room. But still, when you go in there, you know, you just feel like, God, this is, thousands of years of history. And then when you come outside and take a look up at it, you just realize, you just feel sort of insignificant, like you feel like a speck of dust on one of those blocks, one of the million blocks it took to make it. And then the other thought I had almost simultaneously is, as you're there on the pyramid, it's so close to Cairo. You can actually see Cairo from there, but you can't make it out in great detail because the air pollution is so bad. So it's like, on the one hand, you're staring at the Sphinx and the three pyramids that are there, and you're just humbled. And then at the same time, you're just sort of embarrassed to be a human that is destroying this with our pollution and that sort of stuff. So I think there's a lot more to the Egypt story than the Egyptologists are letting on. That the Hawass has been protecting that information for a long, long time. I think he's up to no good. I like that Graham Hancock.
We both love Hawass, don't we? We were calling him the anti-Indiana Jones.
Exactly. And he's trying, and there's a good video you can watch of Graham Hancock setting up a presentation. I think Hawass went first, and then Graham Hancock was going to go afterwards. And it's being filmed without them knowing it. And there's nobody, there are very few people in the room, and they're having an argument because Hawass won't debate Graham Hancock on these topics. And Graham's like, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? That I'm going to, that you're going to have to answer to this, because he wouldn't stick around for questions. He'd only do his part and then wanted to leave. And so there's the back and forth that somebody had their camera and filmed it. And it was interesting. It was sort of showed that he was, he wasn't prepared to debate somebody that came to the table with some facts. And I love Graham Hancock's book, and I have, Fingerprints of the Gods is like one of the greatest books I've ever read. And it kind of goes into that whole topic, not just of Egypt, but of all these monolithic structures all over the world. And once you realize that, hey, these pyramids aren't just in Egypt, they're all over the place. And then you find out about Göbekli Tepe, and you realize that it's that it looks like it was buried intentionally, and that
that like the pyramids, it's almost as if there's something encoded in my junk DNA, as they call it. It's like some ancestral memory. And Göbekli Tepe, like you say, maybe at the most 10% of it's been excavated. Mm-hmm. And like you say, Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods, brilliant. He followed that up recently with Magicians of the Gods.
Yeah.
And this put him on the trail of this possible lost civilization. And of course, people used to rubbish him because there was no evidence of any lost civilization. Enter the picture Göbekli Tepe, and that really throws a spanner in the given timeline. But you think about when you were at the pyramid there, Charlie, and then think about what it must have looked like back in the day when it was pristine, it was covered in marble, it was shining, it was glorious. And they say today that pyramids, just for the burial of royalty, right, despite the fact we've never found a mummy in one of them, what's your thoughts? Is it just some kind of elaborate, highly advanced engineered death chamber or something else?
I think that's probably the least likely outcome of it. I think that the fact that they're sort of built in an astrological way, where they match up, and where if you look through one of the slots in the pyramid and you see out, a star appears there at a certain, time of the year, only once per year, and that's supposed to have some significance to it. I think that we should never really stop digging into that topic. I think there's always something more to learn about it, and I don't know that we'll ever figure it out. So when Hawass comes out and says this is exactly how it is, that to me is a signal that says dig deeper, because how would he know? How would he know exactly how it's all working out? I would be much more inclined to believe Graham Hancock and his, based on the study he's done and the work he's done, not just on that topic, but on a variety of topics. I think that there's probably more to it as far as just a fancy burial chamber. I mean, I guess that makes sense to us if we're just, the casual observers, but it seems like a hell of a lot of work, 3 generations in advance, if you want to have these people build this.
Like I was saying to you before the show, it's almost as if the mindset, the intelligence that went into building that, it obviously went backwards. Because just down the road from there, later on, one of the other dynasties that followed, we've got the Bendy pyramid, right? So it doesn't even make sense. You would think they would get better at building these pyramids over time, as opposed to almost them having failed, copied attempts at the pyramid.
Yeah, that's the pyramid if I was in charge of building it.
Yeah.
I'd be the one that was kind of falling over on one side. I'm not the handiest person in the world. So, and so then it begs the question, if these pyramids are appearing in Cairo, why are they appearing in other places in the world? Graham Hancock found quite a bit of evidence in South America that the tide
covering some of these Aztec and Mayan cities that have been reclaimed by the jungle. I mean, This is unbelievable in this day and age that we're still uncovering stuff like that. And I'll bring you back in here, Johnny, because just the other week we heard how they had uncovered a massive black granite sarcophagus. They removed the lid. They found an intact mummy. And they even say now it could literally be the body of Alexander the Great. And whether that pans out or not, John, it got me to thinking about just how much is still underneath the sands in Egypt and then around the whole planet, because that recent find was 16 foot underground. And just think of all the other mysteries that are lying just underneath our feet, John, that are yet to be uncovered. That's why I love doing this kind of thing. And that's why I think people really, this kind of information, everyone loves to let their imagination and their minds run wild as to what was going on. Whether we get any closer to the truth as to who built the pyramids, what was going on then, I don't know, John. But it's all stuff that we love to get into.
Yeah, definitely, Kevin. We're firm believers, really, that the Egyptians came across the pyramids when they got there.
We're not saying it's aliens, John, but it was ancient aliens, right?
Yeah, well, it's something like that, Kev, because there's no way that you can get those things as perfect as they did without some sort of help. Using pi before pi was even invented, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. And the size of it, the weight of the stones, the things that's inside it, we know absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is all being held back. It's being held back for a reason, Kev, and probably the reasons are there's a way to live, Kev, that probably doesn't cost anything. Do you know what I mean? And people can live happily the rest of their lives, but because of greed and governments, you'll never ever see that side to it.
It's okay, Johnny. Cheer up. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. We'll uncover the secrets.
They're talking about that buffoon being our Prime Minister, Kev. How bad did it get?
Well, like I've explained to you many times, John, it's all a big game because it's Her Majesty's government. So literally, it doesn't matter who gets the cast as the Prime Minister next or who comes after that, because all they're doing is it's acting for ugly people. So the one thing I will say about Bojo is, you think Donald Trump rubs the press up the wrong way. This is going to be a comical gold mine. if he gets to go to summits as the leader of the UK. Absolutely. So you can look forward to that, Johnny. You can.
No, definitely not, Kev. Actually, I'm glad I actually made an impact in life, because I became the world champion at Jigsaws the other day. I got one that says 3 to 5 years, and I done it in 10 minutes, Kev.
Well, myself and Charlie, we often talk about all of this stuff that we look into. It was, I think, Stephen Bassett called it like a giant jigsaw, Johnny. Only some of the pieces have been pulled out of there. Some of them are missing, some of them are wrong, and it's just hard to put it all together. But, you know, Jimmy, I'll bring you in here before we go to the break. Even the pyramid itself, man, here we are with our quantum computers and everything else, yet we're still uncovering new parts of the pyramid. We had that Scan Pyramids team who have recently uncovered a previously hidden chamber in there. Come on, Jimmy, what was the pyramid, man, for you? Your speculation, some kind of machine. What was going on there, dude?
Well, it's been a pet subject of mine for many years. So, I mean, I've got a lot of suppositions about what I think about it. One of the things I think that's consistently left out of the equation is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And because, you know, they're made out of a material that doesn't deteriorate. And so those tablets really do make a lot of sense. And if you relate those tablets, most people, when you're reading the tablets, you're relating to them from the sense of Earth. But what if those are from another planet, such as Mars? And what if there's a magnetic field and a Schumann resonance present on other planets that make it possible for beings like us to exist?
Well,
what if that
if any planet had a core and it was spinning enough to produce a magnetic field, might not be exactly like we've got here, Jimmy, but it would definitely have its own kind of signature frequency and magnetic field. And I'm sure we could maybe have adapted from the Martian surface down to the kind of the Earth one here, if there was some cataclysm that they knew about, you know, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, for this supposition to make any sense, I already said that I don't think human beings can exist in space without that. The way to get here from there would have been with the technology that existed from them, which would allow them to be transmuted here instantaneously. And then that would have, yeah, and maybe that's where these Rh negative blood types come from. And they had to come here because there was something happening in Mars that was going to destroy their atmosphere, and they needed to go away. And so maybe that explains the similar objects on Mars that tie into the objects that are. We're going to be right back, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Jimmy.
Go on, Jimmy. Take us out then, man. You know you want to.
I'm here with the Whistler. I'm here with Kev and our very special guest, Mr. Robinson.
Danger, danger, Will Robinson.
Danger.
This is the Kev Baker Show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Kev Baker. This is tonight's very special birthday show for me right here. I want to thank all of you for sharing 2 hours of your time with me tonight on my birthday. It means the world to me. It really does. 950 episodes in, and I am going nowhere for as long as Chris and Cherie want me here on the network. I'll be coming to you night after night. And tonight, like I was saying at the very opening of the show, it's my birthday. I will woo if I want to. And that's why I went for the guilty pleasure of the author behind the book called The Octopus of Global Control. Not only a great book, but a really great guy. You know, he fits in perfectly with the rest of the people I bring on to KBS. Loves to have a laugh about all the nonsense going on in the world. Charlie Robinson here. Get on over to Amazon. Check out the book. He's on Facebook as well. And Charlie got in touch with me during the week because I love the way synchronicity works here. And I only became aware of synchronicities through listening to Chris and Cherie Geo way back in the day when they were on not their own network. It was another network. And they pointed out this thing called synchronicities. And when you start to hear about synchronicities, it's like somebody buys a new car, because you might not have noticed that car before, but once somebody buys it, it's the only thing you see. And when you become aware of synchronicities, you start to see more and more of them as well. And I think it's the whole universe, some kind of quantum effect, keeping us on the right path. But Charlie, he emailed me and he said, it's unbelievable. It's like we're almost separated at birth. Because if you remember, myself, Scott, and Johnny the other night, we done a show and we were having a laugh about the whole almost Scooby-Doo effect or side of Donald Trump's visit to the UK. Now, that prompted Scotty Lopez to make one of the funniest memes I've seen in a long time, got shared multiple times on Facebook, and it was like the big reveal you get at the end of an episode of Scooby-Doo. You've got the mask being ripped off the bad guy, and underneath it on Scotty's Photoshop was Theresa May, and it was words to the effect of, let's really see who's behind this Novichok poisoning. Well, that prompted Charlie to write to me because, unbeknown to me, a little bit in his book referred to something like a Scooby-Doo style episode. And I'm just going to read this here. It's 2 paragraphs, and it says, Mohammed Atta wrote a suicide note that carefully explained how he was involved in this terrorist attack. He put this note into his luggage and then checked his luggage, meaning that his luggage would be put on the plane or the airplane down below where checked luggage goes. And he would not have access to it from that point forward. It was later found, and from this letter, they were able to piece the whole plot together. How convenient, I say. And then Charlie goes on to write, here's a question. If you wrote a suicide note explaining your role in an event such as this, would you put this suicide note in the bag that you were putting on the airplane, the very airplane that you planned to blow up? You'd be blowing up your suicide note, along with everyone else. Atta would need to be the world's worst hijacker to do something like this. Now, luckily for us, that was the piece of paper or piece of luggage that didn't get put on the flight, and they were able to find the bag and solve the caper, Scooby-Doo style, by pulling the mask of Atta and seeing that it was really Dick Cheney. Now, that might not seem like anything to some people, but for me, that's just one of these mysterious kind of ways the universe works. And it shows, Charlie, that we really are on the same frequency, man.
I finished it up with a sentence later that said, the only part of this story that is even remotely believable is the claim that American Airlines screwed up and didn't put Atta's luggage on the correct flight. That part of the story is 100% believable.
And why didn't, maybe it was made. Perhaps he could have got it made from the same fire bomb retardant material that so many other hijackers and terrorist passports come in these days.
Well, I suggest that they should just build the buildings out of hijacker passports because apparently they're indestructible.
Exactly. And I mean, whistles, I'll bring you in here. This is one of these more ridiculous things that we've seen ever since 9/11 and the war on terror, blah-de-blah. The magic passport. What is it with these pesky passports or driving licenses and things that these terrorists who are cute enough to act covertly in the months building up to these terrorist atrocities that we're told they carry out, yet on the day of the act they take enough ID with them that basically gives their whole life story away? Doesn't make sense, Johnny.
No, it doesn't, Kev, but that's the usual. I mean, as they say, these indestructible passports and driving licenses things, when they blow themselves up and for some unknown reason, the passports and the driving license and everything else that they need is never touched and it comes floating down from the heavens. There must be some divine intervention there, Kev. It's got to be.
It really doesn't. I mean, Jimmy, why should people question the fact that after watching those two towers being turned into dust, why should people question the fact that a passport that was on the plane that allegedly done that was able to fly clear of the scene, a number of blocks clear, and just happened to land at the feet of the FBI? Man, oh man, that was convenient, wasn't it?
Well, as a convenience, I would say yes, it was, that it landed so gently and so intact. I mean, come on, man. These are scripts. Everybody Look, if you think that passport floated down, you're a mushroom. Because Kev, do you know how you grow mushrooms?
I do, but I'd love you to tell the audience because this is brilliant.
Yeah, you keep them in the dark and you feed them shite. Okay, come on, man. Anybody that believes those stories or any of these stories that are put forth in the news, the so-called news, the quote-unquote news, the fake news, okay? Look, come on. What? There's writers for the newscasters, right? There's writers for Elon Musk, right? There's writers for Donald Trump, right?
Oh, you leave Elon Musk alone or you'll be getting a 1-week ban from the KBS hot seat.
No, I'm not saying anything negative about these people. What I'm saying is they have publicists and they have attorneys. Nobody, and I mean nobody with more than $100 in the bank is going to say anything without their attorney agreeing to it. I have people that won't come on my show and they won't come on live because their attorney has to be on the line with them to make sure they don't say anything. Okay,
right now. Let me jump in there then, right? Because I'll counter that because you know how I love Elon.
I know. Come on, man.
I think during the week we had an example of why I think Elon Musk is his own man on Twitter, because I don't think any number of his lawyers or his PR team would have ever told him to go and start tweeting about somebody who he called a pedo guy. This all happened because of this Thai boys that were stranded in the cave. Elon Musk made the submarine. He went over there. They rejected the submarine, and one of the British divers, his name is Vern Unsworth, he basically came out and he said that the whole submarine was a PR stunt. And then in response to that, Elon Musk basically came out and he said something. I'm trying to find the actual tweet here to make sure. Yeah, you know what? Don't bother showing me the video. We will make one of the mini sub pod going all the way to Cave 5. No problemo. Sorry, pedo guy. You really did ask for it. Now, as much as I love Elon Musk, you can't go about calling people pedo guy. Not in this day and age, Charlie.
Well, yes, you can, Kev. I mean, I'm just saying, yes, you can. I'm like Josie Wales. I got to circle back around for a friend, man. I never leave a guy hanging. So I don't want to leave you hanging, Kev. Look, listen, they're seducing you with Elon. I'm telling you, he has a lot to protect by making sure whatever he says. So the best way for you to be seduced by him, Kev, I'm showing you. Let me show you.
He didn't seduce many people.
He did because now he's got you believing that he's against something and he's a rebel. But really, what it is just something put out there so that people like you,
Jimmy, just to save you putting words in my mouth, I don't think he's a rebel. I just think this is an example that goes against you saying his lawyers are telling him what to tweet.
No, I'm telling you, that was okay. That was definitely okayed because that makes him a rebel with a cause, man. And that got you to sign on to his whatever else he's going to do because now you resonate. It's like Hillary Clinton saying, they floated a balloon that Hillary Clinton was going to disclose UFOs. How many monkeys and mushrooms went out there? And I don't mean that in a racial way either before you start emailing me. Okay? How many people went out there, man, and voted for Hillary Clinton because they thought they were going to tell everybody about UFOs, man? Come on. Come on, man.
I believe in UFOs anyway. So, Charlie, I'm going to come back to you before Jimmy loses the plot altogether. And like I was saying, you can't go about calling people pedo guy for no apparent reason, just because he kind of rubbished your submarine, right?
Unless it was Gary Glitter he was tweeting to.
Jimmy Savile?
Right. Well, he hears Thai boys and he just assumes he thinks Gary Glitter.
That was a weird story altogether. I mean, I wouldn't be too happy about some football coach taking my son down to a cave. That's for sure.
That seemed like some really bad judgment on my part. You know, I mean, I'm glad they got out. That seemed, heroic and interesting, and everybody got out okay, and that's fine. But let's have the conversation about, hey, man, why are you taking my kid into a cave? Is this doesn't seem like it was the right thing to do to take all those boys in there. I mean, unless, of course, Lizard Breath had requested them to be taken down to the tunnels for her,
That would not surprise me. Now, that would not surprise me at all. And, I bet you back in the day, Johnny, going down to caves, I bet this was some kind of pastime Jimmy Savile would have loved to have got up to.
Kev, I actually was part of that myself. I was sent to Wales by my school.
Taking children down into caves. Johnny, are you sure you want to share this on the show?
No, this is when I was a kid. And they picked two people, me and another guy, to go to Wales to this. It was a sea school. And that's what we had to do. We had to abseil down 150 foot, down a slate mine. And they says to me, because I was first, he says, hey, you need to take some rocks with you. And I'm saying, what's that for? He says, when you're halfway down, throw them and the rats will run away. Whoa! Honestly.
I remember doing potholing in the army. I enjoyed it, but it was a really strange experience. And again, it opens up an entirely new world. Like I was saying before the break, when you get just below the surface, it's a different world down there, gents. There truly is. But yeah, we had that strange story there. You see, Jimmy, you've totally derailed me now by saying that, pedo guy was all some kind of PR stunt by Elon. You've absolutely derailed. I can't remember where I was going, dude.
Hey, dude, I am a PR genius, so I can spot PR when I see it. Let me tell you something, man. You think Donald Trump just happened to get in there? I mean, is he really part of the Bloodlines? I don't know, man, but I'll tell you this. He auditioned on TV for the role, didn't he? Money, 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 money.
Well,
now, he was on TV, so he proved he could do it.
Club. You don't become one of the billionaire club without, greasing a few palms, going to a few parties. And I don't know if it's true or not, but they say he was on the Epstein Express down to Lolita Island, or the Lolita Express, whatever they call it, Charlie. Now, in your research, just, so we can remind the trolls out there and so we can annoy them again, any connections that you found in your research between Trump and any of this kind of known characters in the Octopus?
Danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah. Well, his uncle, John Trump, had that connection. He was one of the first guys to go into Tesla's apartment or hotel room, I guess maybe it was, after he died, and clear out all of his stuff.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story on that one, Charlie. I had a researcher on, Walter Bosley, and he refers to that. And he also looks back to the early 1900s, where there was this group out of Germany called the NIMSA.
I think that's one of the most interesting topics I've ever heard of. And I've heard him on your show talking about it, and it's fascinating to me.
Isn't it? And, they might say in a court of law, well, this is all kind of coincidental, kind of evidence, stuff like that. But, it feels like there's something there. It's almost like that. I want it to be true, man. A link between Trump, time travel, and the past.
That would explain it, right? How he, I think it's sort of like at this point, he's given the idea to all these other celebrities, non-political celebrities. Oprah, you say Oprah should run for president. You know what? At this point, it's turned into Oprah's probably going to run for president. It's turned into a popularity contest.
Yeah, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. I've heard he might run. Is that just like somebody having a laugh, or is it true?
I'm sure. No, I'm sure it's just a PR guy that's just having some fun with it. But I mean, at this point, the system's broken. Who cares anymore? Let's have The Rock and Oprah be president and vice president. I mean, let's just drive this thing right into the ground. Frankly, they probably couldn't do a worse job than George H.W. Bush, the whole Bush clan, the Clintons, because at least they might be trying to do something in the right direction. They might, Oprah might have I'm going to try and fix the country. Whereas those other people never had any intention of fixing it. They were lining their pockets, all this stolen merchandise was falling out of their hands as they were getting onto Air Force One to leave. So why not? Let's have Oprah. Let's have The Rock. Let's have Chris Rock be like Secretary of Defense. Like, who cares? Why not?
Exactly. And I imagine over your research, you'd have found that early on in your research, it doesn't matter who's president, same as it doesn't matter who's prime minister over here, because we've got the Queen. They all serve at her behest. And it's the office of president that's been captured by this cabal, this octopus that controls the power. So, again, it matters not one jot who gets in there. You could have Charlie getting in there and they'll sit him down just after his inauguration. They'll say, right, check this out. It'll be the film from the grassy knoll. Any questions, Charlie? Oh, hell no. And away you get on with it. And Jimmy, I'll bring you back in at this point because I know you wanted to say something about Putin and Trump. And right now, I bet they'll be having very loving relations after that very affectionate man wink that Trump gave him earlier on. Is that even a thing? Is it a man wink? What's the PC kind of term for a man winking at another man? I'm sure there's some kind of word for it.
I don't know.
Probably.
I think it's
good answer. That's a good answer.
I'm not sure I want to know. And I do know the difference between a Big Mac and oh, never mind. Listen, here's the script. Okay, I'm gonna break it off for you because it's your birthday, Kev. I'm really going out on a limb today, and I'm actually, I'm just letting it all hang out.
Tentacle, man, you're going out on a tentacle of the octopus. That's what it is, dude.
Okay, listen. The script is that Trump is an expert in what? Bankruptcy. America and the rest of the world have to be harmonized. You can't have an unbalanced new world order. Putin and Trump's meeting today was discussing the future of America and when the BRICS nations were going to pull the plug. It's important that Putin and Trump walk away looking like they didn't really do anything or they're kind of pissed at each other because there's so much psychological term projection coming from the Democratic Party, basically making Trump look like the one that had to do with the Russians. But really, honestly, that was not Trump. It was the opposite of that. And that's what you do. If your partner accuses you of cheating on them, the first thing you do is accuse them of cheating on you because now they have to defend themselves and they spend all their time defending themselves and you're projecting on them what you're doing. And that's exactly what happened. This is a psychological technique. It's a script. America's going to be bankrupt. Maybe Trump's going to be at the helm. I don't know. But there's a corporation and then there's a people. And as a people, man, we could shut it down with our dollars and cents, man. If you don't give them your dollars, their system's not going to make sense. Period. That's the end of it. Kev Baker Show is the best show on radio, and it's my pleasure to be here with Mr. Robinson, Mr. Whistles, and of course the quantum mechanic Kev Baker. And you can find him here every single day, Monday through Thursday. And then if you're lucky, he'll be there on Friday for Friday.
Don't think I'm paying you for these unscripted promos that you give my show, Jimmy. That's just not happening, dude. But no, I thank you, man. And I'm going to come to you, Johnny, because Trump, we've often had a laugh about the guy. We were both kind of, I think, in agreement that some of the scenes that we seen the other day when he was in the country, utterly ridiculous. Protesters who didn't know what they were protesting, baby blimps that wouldn't fly. But, I wouldn't mind being in on that meeting between Trump and Putin over there. I bet you they're talking about just what is going on with Theresa Mayhem. Did you see the state of her when Trump was in the country and they were all going to dinner at night? Can you imagine poor Melania stuck with her husband? What a boring dude he looked, Johnny.
Oh, he did look, but he actually looked dead, Kev.
It was like the Odd Couple, wasn't it? It's like he looks like some kind of reanimated corpse walking beside this beauty queen.
Yeah, I know. There's not one of them looked happy in that picture because who they were beside.
What do you think they spoke about? Do you think he said, Melania, sit down, I'm going to let you listen to some Freaky Friday. These guys rock.
No, I think they're talking about, I'm going to ask the Queen if she'll carry my clubs when I do my round of golf at Turnberry.
But I tell you what, we're almost out of time. And it is my birthday tonight, guys. And I said I'll woo if I want to. But for the last few minutes, I'm going to queue if I want to. I'm not going to bash people following Q, but Charlie, QAnon, this is this phenomenon that's kind of overtaken some corners of the internet. And in recent times, I've been saying how, for me, It's very eerily like something else that's popular on the internet called the webbot. Cliff High runs the webbot, and it analyzes language and internet sites and basically has a predictive capability about the future. And it says here for webbot, it's an internet bot computer program whose developers claim it's able to predict future events by tracking keywords entered on the internet. It was developed back in 1997, originally to predict stock market trends. Now, the creator of the webbot project, Cliff High, along with his associate at the time, George Ure, keep the technology and algorithms largely secret and sell predictions via the website. So it says here, what it does is internet bots monitor news articles, blogs, forums, and other internet chatter. Words in a lexicon are assigned values for emotional quantifiers, such as duration, impact, intensity, and others. And long story short, it's then able to produce keywords, and from that, Cliff High produces the webbot report. 50-50. Some of the stuff comes true, some doesn't. But I've been saying now that this QAnon, there's people speculate as to whether it's AI. And just think about that, what we heard there about the webbot. It's able to predict future events by tracking keywords entered on the internet. Now, if you take one of these very clever neural networks and AI today, and you feed it all of the stuff that people are saying about QAnon posts, all of the stuff people are saying about the Clinton crime cartel, all of the stuff they're saying about the President of the United States, and you let it run loose, Charlie, that would come back with little almost Nostradamus-type quatrains of information that, you know what, from time to time, it would prove to be true. And that is why I make a case for QAnon being not only a psyop, but it's Webbot 2.0 on steroids in a quantum world. And I'll be attacked for saying that, just like you were attacked by all the Trump supporters out there. But that's my thoughts. That's my opinion. What's your thoughts on QAnon, Charlie? Is it going to save the day? Should I trust the plan?
Oh, man. You know, to ask the truth community to just blindly trust the plan, I think is asking quite a bit, because you're looking, this is a group of people that are sort of connected by their distrust of the media and government and everything. To tell them to trust the plan, I think is unfair, because I can't trust the plan. That's the whole point, is that I've gotten to the point where I don't trust any of that stuff. So to trust the plan, how about explain the plan? Then I'll trust it. I like what they're saying in terms of what they say is happening, what they say is going to happen. I want those things to come true, and I want them to happen, but they got to understand that we're most of us are in a position where we don't believe anything anymore. So like, they're going to need to show us this. Now, if it happens and everything comes out the way they said it was going to come out, then I will stand up and say those people had it. They had it right. They had it all along, and they trusted the plan. But for me, I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm just saying that I need to see more than that. I can't just blindly trust the plan. I'll sit back and watch it. I know who Cliff High is, and he's done some really interesting work. And I watched his, I remember he said about a year ago, he said, Bitcoin to 13,000 by January. And I was like, okay, well, that's an easy number to just write down. And he was right. It actually exceeded that. It went to like about 20,000 by January.
Charlie, that's why I like it. Like I say, it does have some predictive capabilities.
Right.
And it does, it sounds very similar. If QAnon's an AI, I think it's based on a similar algorithm. But we're almost out of time, guys. And Charlie, before we go, let people know where they can find your book, Facebook group, and we'll get out of here, man.
Well, first of all, happy birthday again to you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. The book's available on Amazon, and it's now available on barnesandnoble.com as well. If you don't want to give Jeff Bezos money, go to Barnes & Noble instead. They seem like nice people.
Awesome. Go to Barnes & Noble. We don't do Bezos on here. Enemy of Elon Musk. And I don't care what you say, Jimmy. My Elon is okay. I'm a Musketeer, and I'm happy. So, on my birthday show, wherever you are, make it TFR.
And didn't touch that dial.